I want to thank you for tuning into a special edition. It's called Honoring a Champion and a Leader. Mark Brentley, I'm your host, Luther Dupree. I'm joined, and I have with me Robert Clanagan of New Africans and also DeVelma Hurd Coleman. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Today, we're talking about an event that's coming up October 15th. We want everybody to be a part of this. We're honoring Mark Brentley's 16 years of service on the Pittsburgh Public School Board. It's just an honor. He's done a lot for Steel City sports world. In fact, 2 of our banquets, he was one of the speakers and came and delivered a great message to some of the youth that were getting on. And he's done a lot of great things, and we believe in giving people their flowers while they're here. And he's done so many great things and fought so many battles. We thought, 16 years, it was definitely an honor to try to give him something big, something nice. So we want the community to come out and support this event and just recognize a great person who's done a lot of great things for the community. But Robert, New Africans, can you tell us what New Africans is and your involvement in the program?
We're a small group in the community, primarily Homewood area, but Pittsburgh in general. And one of the main things we've been involved in over the years is bringing consciousness to our people, the African American community in particular, especially through our Ma'afa ceremony. That for years, our president was Brother Dawood Akbar.
Yes.
And he conducted the Ma'afa ceremony.
Right.
And so that's, so we're diverse people. Myself am from Braddock. And so we're from different parts of Allegheny County, and we're out there in the community. And for years we've known Brother Mark Brentley and being active even before the school board.
And we also have DeVelma. Now, how did you come to be a part of the planning committee, and what's your experience with Mark?
I actually became a part of the planning committee through your mother. The beautiful one and only Dolores Dupree.
Yes.
She invited me to be a part of the committee, and I told her that I knew Mark. We're both North Siders. We grew up on the North Side. I just realized we were rivals in high school. And I knew Mark and his wife from the early 80s through mutual friends. But I got to know Mark even better over the years once my children, my younger children, were students in high school. And there were two different occasions where Mark came to the rescue of my children. And the first one was my son wanted to attend the Black College tour. And in keeping with the tradition of my children and our family, he was our third child to be able to partake in this opportunity. His principal told him that he would not be permitted to do so. It would be considered an inexcused absence, which I thought was kind of odd because these trips always took place during the Easter break when the students were off anyway. And if at that point I realized that there were maybe a couple days beyond that time frame when school would resume. I called Mark because I was at my wit's end, because I know there's children who get excused absences to go to ski trips with their families. So when I called Mark, he put me in touch with, at that time, Dr. Kemp at the Board of Education. It was only about 24 hours that Dr. Kemp called me at my job and told me that through her assistant that the principal would be more than happy to accommodate my son and whatever needs he had to have met to take part in the Black College tour.
That's terrific.
So that was truly a very memorable time for my family, because a lot of our children don't get that opportunity to set foot on Black college campuses in their lives, let alone whenever they're in high school. So I felt that, my husband and I, we felt that that was an opportunity we wanted to afford all of our children. And this was a vehicle by which this could happen without us being present as parents, so they can be with their peers. So that was wonderful. The second time, the N-word was used in a high school production for 2 consecutive years. And I felt that that was just inappropriate. Teachers at the school felt that was an artistic expression. I disagreed. So I had called Mark. I was up in Cranberry conducting some business. He called me and he said, "Hey sis, they're talking about us on the radio." If memory serves me right, it was a Lynn Cullen's show.
Okay.
And I only had one bar on my phone. And as I called that station, Mark gave me the number, I called the station, they patched me through, and I just told them, you know, that's not a term of endearment for our people. Regardless of what you hear in culture, songs, and whatnot, that's not something that was put in place to make us feel good about ourselves.
Right.
And I got my point across. Got a lot of feedback from people I hadn't heard from in years who really appreciated the fact that someone stood up, because what the group on the, what the people on the, what the panel on her show was saying, that it was a group of people that fought to stop the production of the play. That's not true. I said it was a power of one and one,
Right.
Mark and myself,
Right.
because it was just wrong.
Yeah. No business having it out there. Yeah.
Well, as a result of that, the policy of that school changed, where now instead of just the teachers that are executing this through the students have to have permission and clearance from the principal as well as the PTA.
Right. That's how it should have been.
Absolutely, from the
great.
beginning.
And that's just a testament to how Mark is hands-on with the community. You gave two great examples, and I'm sure there's thousands of other kids that can give examples as well. But we do have a clip of Mr. Brentley in action. Can we run that first clip?
The reason for the new language, just to make it clear the purpose of the funding.
Okay, the purpose of the funding. Let me just ask you this. This is so rare to do this on any item, number one, but on this particular item, $4,000. And I'm hoping that the viewing audience is really taking note. This is fascinating to see what we're doing here. As most people are aware, for the last 8 or 9 months, I've had a show on KQV, totally supported by the community, that's been very, very successful, has been successful, as you mentioned here, with getting the word out and making this program even more of a success. So now we're backing up and putting restrictions on how these dollars or what show they should be affiliated with the founder of the program. That is me. But to now separate this and to make it as if I am not with that is just totally unbelievable, and it's misleading. I have to ask, there was a call made to the station concerning the show. Is there a reason why a courtesy call to me could not have taken place?
Mr. Brentley, I did call you.
No, I'm talking about the call to the station.
But you asked me, could there be a call made to you? There was a call made to you.
Yeah, before the call was made to the station.
Mr. Brentley, I was asked to verify something. I called the station to verify it, and I called you as well.
Yes, Doctor. This is so disturbing because. Oh, by the way, let me also say, you were successful. The show is over. It's done. Based upon the call, and Mr. Weiss, you made the call as well. Based upon the call, how can you intimidate? How can you call and intimidate someone to a point over a show and state, we want documentation, notarized this? You don't require that for any other service provider.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but the mics are somehow misset. Mr. Brentley's mic was blinking as though it was about to turn off. Yeah, can we get those checked, please?
Well, Mr. Weiss, can you tell me who authorized you to call KQV?
Superintendent asked me to call KQV and simply ask whether there was a correlation between the prospective advertising and the financial obligation for this show. I was told when I made the call that the show was currently not scheduled, and There was no intimidation. It was an informational call. I said thank you, and that was the end of it.
Well, it was not the end of it. And Mr. Weiss, I have to say publicly, I am so disappointed. Who and what business would want to be put up under that kind of scrutiny when someone calls and say, I am the solicitor, and to suggest as if something was wrong, misuse, or there could be some investigation or some issue dealing with dollars. What business person would want to put themselves under that? And to ask, we're not happy with that. I need this, and I need that, and will you sign this? And will you notarize that? And we want to. The show is over. I'm not going to put the wonderful relationship that we developed. Can't go back there now because they're scared, they're frightened because of the calls made here. And for the solicitor as well as the superintendent to not give me, the founder and the chair of this particular event, a courtesy call and say, hey, can we talk about, or do you know how, we're scheduled to tape Monday, okay? So that's canceled. I mean, just a courtesy call to me. And Dr. Lane, this is highly unprofessional, in my opinion. And to do this, to only isolate this particular event is unbelievable. And we have to emphasize, because of $1,000. Keep in mind, not taxpayers' dollars, money I was able to successfully bring into this district because we made got national recognition. Any other school district would embrace this. But I have to constantly go through these kinds of things as if there's an effort to destroy what success we've had. Absolutely unacceptable. You can withdraw this. I will find another way, but you got to keep in mind the success of this program is based on the power of the parents and the power of those fathers who are interested. It would be nice to have an administration as well as a solicitor to be very, very supportive. I feel like someone went behind my back. I feel violated. Mr. Weiss, you could have easily called me. I'm available. But to ruin a wonderful relationship and to ruin a show and to dissolve the show, because it's over now, you can't go back. This is unbelievable. And I'm hoping that the viewing public, now you see what we have to go through. This is why these schools are struggling.
Wow, that was classic. And we have a surprise. We talked him up, and we have the guy we're talking about, the one and only Mark A. Brentley Sr. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Again, if you see these flyers up, make sure you call the number 412-953-9583. Saturday, October 15th. Make sure your face is in the place. We're going to have a lot of fun, and it's all about honoring a community champion and also a leader. And you saw nothing but leadership on that first clip. We have some more to show. Mark, just talk about your experience. I mean, man, I don't think I've ever seen somebody go through so much for a school board position. I mean, attack after attack. But you stood your ground, so that's what.
Well, first, before I make my comment, I just want to say, first of all, such an honor to sit here with folks who are taking their time to put this event together to honor me. So before I move forward, let me at least say thank you on behalf of my family, but more importantly, on behalf of folks who are still stuck into the madness that African American men don't cry, we don't hug, we don't nurture, we don't educate, and we don't volunteer. My 16 years of service proved that was not the case, and so that's why I wanted to make sure that I served. It has been a challenge because regardless of what national ratings suggest, Pittsburgh continues to be a very tough and cruel place for black people. And if you happen to have a difference of opinion, and that means if you happen to put your issues first before gay rights, environmental services, save the whales, and all that stuff. If you happen to put your community first
Right.
and your issues first, then you're in trouble. Because most African Americans who are successful in a position of elected position often embrace the agenda of others.
Right.
That's why they're allowed to stay in those positions longer. That's why they don't identify with the hardcore problems that are hitting our community. And that's why they seem to go along to get along. I've served. It has been unbelievable what I had to go through. I had to remind folks that I am the only person that I'm aware of who's been on the board for 16 years who wanted to serve as the board president but was not allowed.
Wow.
Because of my refusal to vote along with their things with closing black schools, hurting children, the changes in personnel. It was their way of disciplining me and keeping me in check. That's why, if you noticed, for my years that were there, they've pulled other folks who've had 3 years,
Right.
some had 4 years, placed them in the position of president and other positions. So they've never allowed me to be president, nor first vice president or second vice president. I was never allowed to chair any of the powerful committees.
Right.
They were often told when I put something out on the table, just let Mark vent. He's going to talk about black stuff. So don't agree with him and don't second that. And so for me, that was very painful when I'm sitting there at a table with 3 other African Americans who know what I'm talking about, who know the pain that's going on in our community, but will look the other way. They won't even second some of the issues. So I had nothing else to do but to do what you've just showed, and that is to fight with honesty and to fight for what was right, and then use my voice and my vote.
Right. Now, you started 99, right? That's
Yes,
the
sir.
first time. And,
Yes, sir.
And you won both the Democratic and the Republican.
That's correct. I ran in 1999. First of all, how I decided to
Right.
run is that at that time, we were sending our kids to a magnet school that was in Northview Heights.
Okay.
Went through a couple of principals. They finally got this one principal perfect
Right.
for the school, and her name was Linda Bryant.
Okay.
Loved the kids. On weekends, she used to come up, walk the kids in their community, visit during the weekends, checking on the kids, walking them home every day. She lived about 5 minutes away. She was great. Well, somewhere, somehow, there was a white parent that had a disagreement with her. Linda didn't move fast enough for her. And so she knew what buttons to push. She called the board and said that we wanted her out. She's this and she's this. The board removed her.
Wow.
And so I was furious. We organized, we were able to get a big yellow bus. I filled it with parents and we went out there. We did everything except bathed and shine their shoes. So this is a community, we need her, she's great for us. Please keep her, let's work this out, etc. And that board sat there and they made the move, and then the school continued to go down. Afterwards. I was angry at that, and I said, you know what, I got to get involved. And from that point on, I decided to rub 2 nickels together and get out there and run. And of course, I ran, won on both tickets, the Democratic ticket and the Republican ticket, and one of the parties, I want to say the Democratic Party, I won by 47 votes, if I'm not mistaken. And I always tell folks this, those of you who say you don't vote, it doesn't make a difference, I always tell them, all of you who benefited from my 16 years of service on the board, had 48 people decided not to come out and vote, I would not be on that board.
Wow.
So your votes are important, and your
Exactly.
votes do count.
Exactly. Robert, you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to say,
It's always good to see you.
you too, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Glad to
sir.
see you, be in your presence. Mr. Brentley sells himself a little short on about how he got involved. But there's community organizations that he was involved with that were advocating for parents and students in the Pittsburgh School District. And he was a big part of that little movement, that little group that took the Pittsburgh Public Schools to task.
Okay.
You know, so he developed a name through that, the group Advocates for
Yes,
African
sir.
Americans.
You are correct.
If I
That's
remember
right.
correctly.
And we were actually involved, really got our name locally and nationally, I guess, notoriety, when we found out the games that were played with the board and the foundation community when it came to the selection process for the superintendent. At that time, they were able to do a national search. They narrowed it down to 3, and then they had a community reception, allowed those 3 finalists to speak before the community, I think for 5 minutes or whatever. Well, the only one that everyone remembers, there was an African-American woman, just gorgeous, and stepped forward, and once she spoke and her plan for the district, everybody fell in love with her. That was Dr. Loretta Webb.
Okay.
And everybody began to advocate for them. I think they were scheduled to vote that following week or the next week. Everybody fell in love with her. And they started to advocate for her. When the vote was set up, they ended up going with someone else.
Wow.
And everybody was outraged. We heard of rumors where the foundation stepped up and cut a deal with the board. Hey, we'll give you guys a little money, we'll do this, hey, we'll do that. And so from that point on, it made it very clear to me that it's really not about education. Remember, our children are in these schools, and there are other folks who actually use them to do their necessary things. It has nothing to do with education until we get up and get out and get involved and change the process.
Yes, indeed.
But you are correct, yes. The advocates for African Americans, quite a few very active folks who were part of that as well.
Now, one program, Take a Father to School.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, won awards about that program.
Yes.
How did you come up with that idea, that concept?
Well, that was a no-brainer. Before I got on the board, when I would attend PTA meetings, PTO meetings, PSCC meetings, I've noticed that most of them, folks who were attending them and keeping them intact and making them work were women.
Right.
Our mothers, our
Right.
wives, our sisters. And I said, oh my God, they can't do all this heavy lifting by themselves.
Yeah.
And so I said, once I got on the board, I said, I'm going to find a way to put a call out to men. It is not to pat them on the back, but to
Right.
tell them that you have a responsibility to step up and to do your part. It takes 2 to bring that child into this world, and you have to get up and get involved. And so when we kicked off our first Take a Father to School Day, we just encouraged men, hey, show up, talk to the PTOs, talk to the principals, can I volunteer? Because it's important, because they have what I call, there's been a long-standing boycott in this district against the hiring of African American men. I said it's also a good thing for them to see African American men, all men, coming in the building and nurture and being active and involved. And so once we started that, it just took off on its own. In 2012, we submitted an application with the National School Board Association. This is where they recognize school districts throughout the area on best practices.
Right.
And there were 2 or 3 layers. We won the first layer. With that, we also got a $4,000 grant for the district. So yeah, we're very proud of that.
You know, I've participated in those Take a Father to School, and you're right. Just a great feeling, see all the men involved. I mean, that's the one time that you see all the men, you know, at a school event that's not a sporting event. So that's a great feeling, and you know, I'm glad you brought that idea. Yes. Were you able to participate in some of those?
I did to a certain extent. Part of a group called Coalition for Fathering Families. Brother Melvin Eel, Brother Larry Davis, and we supported that day and got the word out as much as possible. And you know, I like to also say, Mr. Brentley, that it is you've been a motivating factor to a lot of people, but speaking personally, you know, I was on Woodland Hills School Board for 8 years, from 05 to 13. And before that, I was advocating in the community just like you in the Woodland Hills School District. And I started coming to those African advocates for African American meetings in Homewood. And hearing you speak, I didn't know who you were at the time. And I was like, who is this man? You know, who is this man with the, you know, speaking so strongly? And in 05, I decided to run So by then, when I was approached about running, I had a flashback of you. I'm gonna be the Mark Brentley in Woodland Hills.
All right.
Man, there you go.
And I did it
Alright.
did it for 8 years.
Good for you.
And you never know when you're moving in your purpose, you're moving in your passion,
Right.
and you're steadfast, and you're being what's the word? Disciplined in doing that. You never know who you're affecting.
That's true.
And I know you're a man of God, and I know that that's where the deep passion is. It's you being spiritually moved to do what you do. And when we do that, we don't know who we're affecting in other areas. And that's what you did for me. By you being adherent to your passion here in the Pittsburgh School District, it moved me to do what I was doing over in Woodland Hills.
Isn't that nice? Beautiful.
The Mark Brentley of Woodland Hills. I like that. Hey, let's jump to the phone lines. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Lou from Point Breeze,
Hey, Lou, thanks for the call. What's on your mind?
and I just want to say about Mark, I've seen him in different settings, and there's been some settings where he was promoting one idea, and no one else was promoting that idea, and he stood his ground.
Yes.
And that just impressed me. He's never afraid to stand up for what he believes in. And I just want to ask a question of him. Number one, has he met the new superintendent, Dr. Hamlet, and does he think he will succeed in the Pittsburgh School District?
Very good
Great
question, Lou. Thank you so much for the comments. Two things. I have not met him, slightly concerned. Immediately when he took office, I called, but then I was shocked to find out I had to go through a layer to get to him. After sharing my credentials and who I was, they automatically knew who I was. So I was a little disappointed there. I had a proposal that I wanted to share with him, wanted to just introduce myself, wanted to see where he stands with our Fathers program. And they were going to call me back. Actually, I was going to invite him here to the studio and to participate when former Superintendent John Thompson was here. He and I started a program called Ask the Superintendent.
Right.
We put him on a hotspot. I had a panel of high school students, uncut, unedited, and I let them go at it. And I wanted to share that with him. I shared it with the young lady who stepped in and took the call, and then they never called me back. So that concerns me. I hope it's something minor. Now, I'm sorry, what was your second question?
That you think will succeed?
He will succeed. He's facing an uphill battle. Remember when they first announced that the issue of plagiarism? Well, when the board members, specifically the African American board members, did not step up and defend him and to make it clear to some of the racist elements in this city about how wrong it was for them to do this. He didn't do it to Mark Roosevelt, who had zero experience. Okay, and when they didn't step up and protect him, it kind of tells you someone has gone into battle. Everybody has a weapon except you. And so here he is. He has to not only deal with that, but they also had an investigation where they put things in writing with that report. And I shared it with one particular board member and said, you should not release that report. That's a personnel issue. Once you release that, anytime he stepped forward to try to do something that's progressive for black children, they may bring that report out. Remember, you were plagiarized, you did, and so he begins to work in a bubble. And that concerns me. Now, if he is bold and if he is going to do what the universal God force has put in him to do, and that is to do it anyway, then he will succeed. But that requires some folks to surround him and to support him, and I haven't seen that yet. I hope it happens.
Hopefully it does. Great question. Thanks for the call. Let's stay on the phone lines. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
Yes, this is Donna from Homewood.
Yes, Donna. Thanks for the call. What's on your mind?
You're welcome. First, I want to commend the group for honoring one of our own. We need to do that more.
Yes, true. Definitely.
And also, I want to congratulate Mark for his volunteer service on the board, as well as his community service and being a role model, a father, a husband, and a citizen, and also a mentor.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to ask Mark, now that you're no longer on the board, there'll be a big void. Now, is there any way you can still be somewhat of an influence to try and attempt to fight for our children and have the board, go in the right direction and do what they should be doing for our children?
Yes, I can, and thank you so much for the comments, Donna. What I hope to do is to continue to use, as you know, that I have a show here on PCTV as well. I critique some of the policies and things that they pass. If necessary, I'll invite guests to come on and to talk about it. Okay. I am also involved with, I hope to stay involved with the district with going back every year to do the Take a Father to School Day. Don't know if the superintendent is going to embrace that. Haven't heard yet, so I'm hoping to do that. And more importantly, I make myself available if there's anything that anybody wants to talk about. Probably on an average of I take 1 to 3 calls a month, still answering questions concerning schools where folks call, they don't know I'm off the board, but they still call, and I still make the calls for them and put them in the right direction. So yeah, it's in your blood. Our kids need so much help. The folks in the district need so much help. And so I do what I can, but thank you so much for the questions.
Oh, you're welcome. And actually, it should be a paid position for you to be a consultant for the Take a Father to School Day, but
that would be nice.
I guess that's another issue.
We tried
keep
to
up
have
the good work.
Thank you. We tried to have a little bit of those discussions last year, but hopefully we'll get to that point this year. But remember, we're still dealing with a very tough city, regardless of the 16 years of service, national award. We're getting thousands of people out. Most school districts would have already found a way to set me down, put me on staff, or put me on a consultant basis, or bring it in, because it is listed as the largest single parental involvement activity in the district, and I'll even stretch it as far as say countywide. Wow. Nobody else can boast about bringing thousands of people together on one day. Young men, black men, old men, white men, doesn't matter. They all come together, they're embracing, they're working, they're asking how to help, and that's a powerful, powerful thing.
Yes, it is.
Great, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And Dawn, we kind of left you out of the conversation. Give some thoughts. I mean, you gave 2 great examples.
I just want to thank Mark for being that father figure for children who may not see a man all week at home or at school. I can remember my husband was probably the only African-American lunch dad on his day off. He would go to school and help the women, the lunch ladies, or older senior citizen ladies, and they didn't move as fast as the principal wanted them to. So out of frustration, my husband, he said, I'll just do it for them. And he would do just what Mark did. And the power of one is such a strong thing. He said a lot of things that resonated with me. Whenever we have someone like Mark, for all the blessings that he has bestowed on our children, we have to step up as a community to support him.
Exactly.
He's no longer in this office, but that doesn't mean that we don't continue to try. Remember, it was 16 years of voluntary service. How many people do you know? No pay. Not only no pay, but they also, the powers that be or that were that did not want him there, found a way to have his job compromised. This is a father and a husband. He has 5 children with his wife. So I want you all listeners out here to think about if he did not have your income, because whenever he got his job back with the city of Pittsburgh, they did not reinstate his pay. Now we know those who, pardon?
No unemployment, no
nothing.
Back
He
pay.
had no financial
to break this man
assistance. And if you want to kill something, cut off the head. He's the head of his household, I'm sure only after God.
That's right.
But whenever you cut the head off, the body is supposed to die. But God blessed him with a white rib, his wife. Okay? Now, I have not seen Sharon and Mark that much over the years, like I said, but whenever I was going out and asking everybody to come to this function we're having for him. Not one person had anything negative to say about Mark. Older, younger, male, female, Fortune 500, Wall Street or Fifth Avenue in Pittsburgh, whatever you want to call it, or maybe the other side of the track. Everybody had wonderful, scathing reports about this man. As I said before, when I see these tapes here, it's just a constant reminder that no matter how far you think we've come, we haven't come that far. And it seems to be a little bit worse here in Pittsburgh. I travel a lot. I would take my children out of school and travel so that they would see the world, and as a result of that, they don't live here in Pittsburgh anymore. But for those of us that still live here, that are still, in the struggle, we really, really have to step up our actions, our thought process. We have a decent school system that could be a lot better. I think about Shinley High School. They have mothballed that building for years. That was an outstanding school. Great people graduated from that school. And when this man is trying to fight to keep schools open because of the busing and whatnot, there's a lot of less than desirable things that happen now. We have, I think, 4 high schools in downtown Pittsburgh now. Are there 4? I know there's a lot. My children are adults now.
We have a couple of charter schools that are still public schools, but your point is well taken that we've lost schools and they were not well thought out plans before they closed them. Shinley, I've said on the board, was, I said it then and I'll still say it today, there should be a full investigation as to the closing of it. And I believe there are some folks who should go to jail. The asbestos issue was a hoax. Mark Roosevelt participated. It was there. His job was to clear the building, find a reason to get the kids out, and they had all of the high rollers already standing in line to get the building, and that vote went down along racial lines, and it was just, you destroyed a high school. Then Mark Roosevelt realized, we made a mistake. Okay, let's create a high school. We'll call it University Preparatory School of Margaret Lyons. Put a good name on it. Use the old Margaret Lyons, and there's been issues ever since with that school. No community should have been treated that way. And so when folks don't stand up, these things happen. But it's just interesting that most of the things that closed were in or around the African American community. Most of those kids that you see on buses are African American students. Most of the teachers that are in front of the classrooms teaching African American schools in a district that's predominantly African American are young white females. Nothing personal against white females, but when you don't have the balance, our children need to see African American women in front of that classroom as well as African American men. The energy and love that I give a child is slightly different from what they'll get from the mother. A child needs that balance, and we're not giving it to them, and it's pretty sad.
It is.
You hit a lot of points there, Brian.
That's you're on point as usual, and that's the same song I've sung in Woodland Hills. It's the same scenario, smaller school district, but the same scenario, and it's the same across the country. It's a systemic thing. But I also would like to say, in relation to the community, October 15th, to come out and support Mr. Brentley. As it's been stated earlier about celebrating someone as while they're above ground. And keep in mind that we lost a great journalist this past weekend, Brother George Curry, most familiar with Emerge magazine. And he was consistently speaking out nationally about the ills in the black community and holding people accountable for their actions, political, social, activists, the whole 9 yards. And I say that to say that, Mr. Brentley, I am honored to be able to be a part of this process and honoring you for your service, just as Mr. Curry was a strong voice in journalism. So have you been here in the Pittsburgh area, whether it's community or education? And I encourage the community to take advantage of this opportunity to give you your flowers while they can see you and still hear you.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate those kind words as well as Development's words, because what's exciting to me is that you know, I used to go to those board meetings and do battle, and I used to just walk away beat up, and I said, you know, I don't think anybody heard me. I don't think anybody's listening, so it's good to hear that.
I know the feeling.
It means a
Yes,
whole
indeed.
Right. You know what? We're going to run another clip. Can we run that clip? No, I think this is the Teach for America version. Can we run that clip right now? See Mark Brentley in action.
I will not be supporting this item. I think we clearly heard from the public. Anytime the public expresses their concerns to you and the numbers in which we were showed, you have to, as an elected official, you know, we can be tough and thugged out all we want, but when the numbers that were given to us, over 1,300 folks signed a petition, the countless folks who continue to contact us, and let's not forget that the symbolically what Teach for America is starting to represent, which irritates me. And unfortunately, it's starting to represent an attempt to really break organized labor. It is an attack against organized labor, and it's doing it in a backdoor kind of way. And I really wish that we had the mechanism as a board to simply say, fine, Teach for America, you want to fight with the PFT? Well, we'll take the kids and let's step out and let them fight. We should not be caught up into this or be forced to be caught up in this. And remember, the most important thing, and I shared at agenda review, is that it was said in the paper that one of the reasons why we want to Teach for America, it will increase our diversity. You know, oh, what a slap in the face. You know, I've been here advocating for this district to go after African American men and women. I know of some who apply for jobs, who have all the credentials, but it stops in our HR or for some other reason. And so the fact of the matter is, the reason why we don't have diversity, that this administration, along with the previous one, it was not a priority. It was simply not a priority. Secondly, we've never reached out and established relationships with those who are out there who are in the business. You know, we haven't reached out to engage those and say, hey, look, here's what we're trying to do. Will you work with us? But we immediately went to the media and said, look, it's going to help us to increase the diversity. Then another point that's important is it's kind of an insult to say we're going to get someone, and let's make it very clear. Teach for America candidates, their hearts are pure. I mean, they mean well and they want to do right. But this is the inner city urban environment, and sometimes you have to have the necessary skills to deal. And 5 weeks may not cut it. Okay, we just have to be honest about that. And to be able to say we can do that, and through our political power, we can get them in some of the larger school districts. You know, I just read a letter today in the Tribune Review about an issue with the Tribune Review, Teach for America. And it's controversial and it's divisive. And so I was hoping that we not kind of engage in it, but it's obviously some things that some board members want to do. I do not want to participate in it. I think some of their goals are kind of exciting. I had some concerns I've shared before, even in which the way we were contacted, it was presented to us in an executive session. I've been here for 16 years, and we don't have presentations in executive sessions. That's public. That's supposed to be on the education committee for the full public to view. It wasn't like that. And the young lady was very sharp and knew what she was talking about. But when I asked her the questions, how can you help us to get what we need, which is key qualified African Americans, can you set aside? Oh, we don't do that. We don't do that. Well, can you help us to find someone? Would direct us so your little special pool? No, we don't have that. Well, I'm done. That's my concern. That's what we don't have here. And so we have to really ask, what is it that we're doing? The final point that I want to make is that in the newspapers there were comments made, we need them to fill some of these key positions. You know, I am not an educator, but I know an insult when I see one. And to say that, and to not say or to suggest that you don't have it in this great city, and you haven't approached the CMUs, the Chathams, the Carlos, and the IUPs and all those, and you haven't really worked with them, you know, it really begins to make a divisive kind of issue. And I just hope that we don't get involved with it, that we don't do it. And, you know, so those are my comments, and thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Brentley. Mrs. Khaleesi?
Again, those points you brought up then back in 2013 are still prevalent now. But also what you see there, the fact that you made the connection with the school board and PCTV, yes, broadcasting them, I think it put a lot of things out there that we weren't privy to before.
Yes.
So you definitely need to be
Thank you.
On for that as well. That was huge.
One of the secrets that I found out is that the power of secrecy. Mm-hmm. If you can just do things on a slide, most of the things that they would try to sneak through, I couldn't convince the other African American board members to support me on it. Mm-hmm. So all I did was read it into the minutes.
Right.
Because what they would say is, hey, so and so is on there. Don't say nothing. Just vote it through. And I just thought that was so misleading. And so that was my plan, to just read it, let the public know so they can then follow up.
Right.
It makes me wonder what's going on in your absence. If it was as simple for them to do then and when you were present, what's going on now? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That we don't know about with the children that are going back to school this year. I think they start in the next couple of weeks.
Right. Some have started this week.
Right, depending on, I guess, where you live.
Well, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that when you stand up for poor people, mm-hmm, and when you stand up for black people, you are immediately isolated. And I think some of the new board members probably found that out, and they found out it is safer to keep quiet. Mm-hmm. It is safer to just go along and vote with the majority. My service on that board, many of you are well aware, because I refused to step down, as you know, cost me my job. Yeah, at that time, Mayor Murphy wanted me, he told me to resign. Once I beat both parties, he wanted me to resign, and I refused to. He was the mayor, and eventually he terminated my job with the city of Pittsburgh. That's hardball.
Yeah.
That's hardball because they couldn't control the possibilities. And remember, the school board's budget is larger than the city of Pittsburgh's budget. The relationship with some folks in the city hall and other governmental agencies of getting their nieces and nephews jobs and contracts for their friends, it's it works. Right. And so a lot of them have the hookup. And when they see something or someone threatening that, then they go all out, and they went all out for me.
Except it still didn't work.
That's right.
They didn't know who they were dealing with.
They
didn't know who they were dealing with.
The community stood up and continued to support.
And I have to say it again, no pay.
Yeah.
Go through all that you've gone
16 years.
through. I did 8 years on Woodland Hills. There's no pay involved, and to stay steadfast as you did over these 16 years, and I know the strength and courage it takes to sit down and be as vocal as you was. I know firsthand, and to go through all that with no pay. Once again, I'm honored to be a part of this process, to honor you on October 15th at the Kaufman Building on the Hill District.
Thank you.
412-953-9583 for more information. Make sure your face is in the place. Let's take this next caller. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
I'm calling from the Homewood line.
Okay, yes, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is this. It takes a man like Mark Brentley to serve 16 years.
Yeah.
16 dedicated to students, parents, and families and schools. But most of he took his bit to get men involved in school. Brother Mark is Brother Matt.
Yes, sir.
I want to say to you, brother, on October 15th, the party is over. It's about
Yes,
it's
sir.
about honoring you. It's about celebrating you. It's about showing you how much we love you.
Yes, sir.
You're my brother. You're my friend. It has been a pleasure to work with you and to continue working with you in this work. So as I say to the audience this, there's only one Mark Brentley. It's sat on that for many years. You'll never come again. So much education. Thank you for your.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And one more clip I want to show. This is one of
You're
our.
bringing them all out,
We're
Luther.
bringing them. Well, this was a good one. You did our second.
That's when they were all good.
Bang quiz for Still City Sports
Okay.
World. So we wanted to get some of the good words you said.
We want to bring another bow-tie wearing friend of mine forward now, Mark Brentley Sr., who wants to give us some words of encouragement, especially to all of you young winners for academics and athletics out here. We're all proud to be here. Mr. Brentley, member of our Board of Education, and another bow-tie wearing guy.
Member of the Club of Good Standing.
All right.
Let me say good afternoon to everyone. To those of you who have not had the opportunity of meeting, my name is Mark Brentley Sr. I am a member of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. I've been there. I am one of the senior members. And so over the last 14, 15 years, we've just watched thousands and thousands of youths go through the Pittsburgh Public Schools. But my comments of encouragement today is every time I go to an event like this, I am so happy, I'm pumped, I'm encouraged. They often tell me, well, why do you do what you do on a volunteer basis? I said, well, it's because events like the one we're attending now. And that is, we have an opportunity to acknowledge just a few of our students who are doing very well. And so my comments of encouragement, I would love for this room to be packed with thousands of students that we are acknowledging. But how do we get it to that point? And the simplest way to remember is we each one reach one. That's the encouragement. For the things that I do on the board, I would love to wave a magic wand and to save all of our students. No dropouts, everybody's on honor roll, but it simply just don't work that way. And so what I found out is that what I'm going to do is find a way to lock on one or two that I can move on. And so each one, reach one, each one, teach one. And that's words for encouragement today. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.
Mark Brentley Sr., who's always been the champion of education here in the Pittsburgh area for as long as I have known him.
All right. Great words. Each one teach one. But let's get this last phone call. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
Sharon Jefferson, calling from Tom.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. What's on your mind?
Well, I haven't had the benefit to listen in for the entire show, but at the risk of repeating what I'm sure has already been said, not only am I glad for the service that my brother Mark has provided to the community, I'm also personally moved by the gesture of the community to take the initiative to honor him for his service. And so I just wanted to express a heartfelt, personal thank you and appreciation to Still City Sports and New Africans and the entire community in Pittsburgh who have supported Mark when the chips were down for him and have stood by him and have reinforced the values and philosophies that he's tried to promote. And so with that, I hope to see all of you and more on Saturday, October 15th.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, baby girl.
Thank you so much for your cause. We get ready to wrap up. DeVelma, any final thoughts?
I just have the expectation of a room full of people to celebrate Mark on October 15th and tickets are available through 412-953-9583. I think we're going to have a wonderful time. What a wonderful way to send this man into retirement after 16 years of voluntary service and a dedication to community and our children.
Okay, Robert.
As I said, you know, it's an honor. It's an honor to be here with you now and be able to sing your praises while you're still among us.
Amen.
And I wish you great progress with the use of PCTV in broadcasting what's still going on in education. It's going to be greatly needed. And I still do it at Woodland Hills. I go to the school board meetings and voice my opinion. And right now, the biggest thing for me is advocating for African American history to be instilled in the curriculum, throughout the curriculum. There's nothing they can teach that we have not achieved and that is not a part of this American history.
All right, Mark.
I just want to say,
Final thoughts?
yes, sir, just say briefly, once again, it's an honor when the community steps forward to acknowledge my volunteer service. I do want to make one clarification. Development said retirement. I just want to say not really retirement. I just want to be on the school board.
Right.
The issues are so great in our community.
Yes, they are.
I just moved from one to
another.
So, but I'm so honored. I'm excited about this big event. And I hope I get a chance to see a lot of folks. Luther, you guys have been great. You put a lot of work into this production. It's just an honor when people want to stop and talk about the conditions and those issues that I felt strongly about. Makes me feel really good. So I'm excited. Can't wait for the 15th.
Well, you've always fought for the students at Pittsburgh Public Schools and beyond, and we want to make sure we do this the right way. October 15th, make sure you call 412-953-9583. Give us a call. It's going to be a great time as we honor a community leader, a champion, and a warrior. That being said, I'm Luther Dupree for Mark, for Robert, DeVelma. Thank you for calling in. We'll catch you next time.